What's good, family? What's good, YouTube? They Live, We Sleep, Part 2, The Wildman Connection. I go by the name Pushy Push if you haven't heard of me. Down below is my TikTok at pushy.push. Definitely check that out. I drop videos all the time. Also, drop a like right here and subscribe to my YouTube. But let's jump into this one right here. So, 'tis the season to believe. This picture right here is one that is comical to the average person who looks at this picture. No one in a average or regular mind or serious mind would look at this seriously. But in this video, I want to make some connections. So we're going to make a bunch of connections to the wild man. And so this picture right here has its connection. So we're going to break this down. I'm going to start with the wild man itself. And if you notice, it has the Santa hat and it's shaking a hand with an alien. So you want to understand that connection right there. But what was the person meaning when they showed the wild man or this Sasquatch or Bigfoot with this Santa hat? And it actually does really mean something. So right here, I was showing this in the previous video, part one, this book right here, Santa Claus, The Last of the Wild Men. And like I said, this book was very interesting. You know, it says the origins and evolution of Saint Nicholas. So they're saying that this is the original Saint Nicholas, the origins and evolution of Saint Nicholas. It's like they're saying this is the original Saint Nicholas, the last of the wild man. So when you look back at this, what you're seeing is the wild man with the Santa hat. So they were making the connection that Santa Claus is the wild man. Santa Claus, the last of the wild man. They were actually making that connection. And then you get to this one right here. When Santa was a shaman, when Santa was a priest, or when Santa was a magician, you know, this was a wild connection, especially with this next part right here. So let me show you this. It says wild man and holy places. It even says Saint Nicholas below, but it says wild men and holy places. So it's showing you a priest down below, like the Pope. He has the hat, the fish hat, like the Pope. Wild man and holy places. Well, you go back, it says when Santa was a shaman, when Santa was a priest, when Santa was a magician, you know, and then you get back here, Santa Claus was the last wild man. So this is interesting when you get to right here and you start to see wild man and holy places. This is why I said there's a lot of connections to show that this beast right here, this creature right here, has evolved to such point that it now looks like a regular man. It has power inside of the church. It sits on the throne like a king. So we're going to be showing all this right here, that this connection with this wild beast. That's why I said it starts off, you know, with Santa being last of the wild man. And this is the reason why they showed the wild man with the Santa hat right there. Wild man and holy places. So it says Saint Nicholas, wild man in holy places. So what do they mean when they say the wild man in holy places? Is this person a wild man? Like he no longer looks beastly. It looks like a plain man, but he might have the DNA. So we look at this next one right here. This is the Pope. And if you notice, you see him, he has the fish hat on his head. You go back, this Pope right here, he has the fish hat on his head. And it's saying wild man and holy places. You know, these are the Saint Nicholas. Are these wild men? in holy places. You see them with the hat. But the part to really make a connection to is the image that's right underneath the Pope's hand. There's this image. It's like a little person right underneath his hand under all of the three garments right there. So we're going to look a little closer at that. That image is what you see in the NASCAR lines right here. That is what the image is that is on the Pope. This image, it's an alien as far as I'm concerned. Maybe that's what they were trying to draw. And I say that because when you look right here, that is what's on the Pope's gown. You see that same picture that's in the NASCAR line is on the Pope's gown. So we're trying to show this connection. So let me go all the way back to the beginning. It started off with the Sasquatch with the Santa hat, and then you see it made the connection that it was saying that this is the wild man, a man that looked like an animal or was once like an animal and now looks like a normal man. And it's showing you that there's an alien connection, and that's how we get to this, showing you the alien connection with the Pope that could be the wild man itself. That's why focus so much looking at that hat, like, well, this is wearing the Pope's hat. And then it says wild man in holy places. So the Pope is wearing this hat. Why wouldn't he be the wild man in holy places, like a descendant of it? This is a bloodline. And then you can see the image underneath them, which connects the alien presence on the gown right there. So all of this is connected. I don't necessarily think that it's alien. I really do think that it's man himself trying to almost make a super soldier or a super version of itself, where you can see better, move better, maybe even live longer. I don't see it as a alien, but that is how it's presented to us. So this image right here is what we just saw. We saw that this represents actually really Santa, the wild man. And then we see that the church, because the wild man is connected inside of it, the Santa, the Pope, the Saint Nicholases, they're all connected. They're connected with whatever this entity is. That's what we showed on the NASCAR lines right there. This is what I call evolution. The wild man, started off beastly. And from what I understand, they were going out and taking women and mingling with them against their will. And that mingling right there created a situation where you had a half man, beast man. And then I believe that this is the evolution to where this person on the far left, this is the end result. It looks like a man. It looks like me and you, or it looks like other people in the world, but the DNA inside of it is different. It looks like, a regular man, but it has done nothing but evolved. And I'll show you why I say that. So here's another connection. With this one, you can see the men are throwing the wild men into the fire. And you can see that the wild men are trying to capture the women. So that's showing you that these Sasquatches or whatever they were capturing women and mingling with them, making them have babies. And next thing you know, they're now more humanoid. They're taking more of a human look and feature. But this wasn't a willful thing. You're seeing them being thrown in a fire. You see them attacking this beast and trying to protect the woman that, this beast is trying to um, take to where he comes from. So that is what you're seeing right here. But there's another catch to this right here also, because it gets a little deeper. So you see them fighting them. And then there comes this part right here. And this is interesting right here. I showed this in a previous video. It says, however, far from being the offshoot of St. Nicholas of Turkey, Santa Claus is the last of a long line of what scholars call wild men, who were worshipped in ancient fertility rites and came to America through Pennsylvania's Germans. So, what stands out and connects all this is that Santa Claus is the last of a long line of wild men who were worshipped in ancient fertility rites. Ancient fertility rites. What that means is people at some point chose to mingle with this beast opposed to fighting it. So you see them fighting it right here. But this beast ends up like this because people chose to mingle with it. And I'll show you that connection right here. This is that connection. This can be a monk, and the monk is clothing the wild woman. And then you see the glow that's around the head. They call that a Eucharist. Now, my thought for this isn't the same as how it's defined, so they believe that this wild woman is divine. They believe that she's divine. That's why she has the glow around her head. And you can see this is the beginning of the ancient fertility rites where the church is clothing the wild woman and maybe in some form begin to believe that her existence was divine to where they started mingling with her. And I'm not making that up. That's why I go back to here. Who were worshipped, the wild men who were worshipped in ancient fertility rites. They were worshipped. They were worshipped. So the people who was in the church was worshiping them. This is the reason why you see that glow around their head, is because they believed that they were divine. So they began mating with them. This is the beginning of how the wild man got into the church. So if we go back just real quick. Let's go back real fast right here. It says, wild man in holy places. How did the wild man get into the holy place? How did St. Nicholas get into the holy place? Well, he got into the holy place because people from the church was accepting them and possibly mating with them. And through that right there, now they're in the church and eventually becoming pope, like this one right here. Eventually, they're becoming pope. They're becoming pope now. This is an extension of the wild man, literally from this act right here. I want you to look at this coin because it shows that the mixture of animal DNA to human is something that is very well known, and actually it is practiced. It is an ancient fertility rite. So if you look on the right side, there is a man, and on the left side there's a woman. And what we're looking at is their hands. You see how both their arms go in underneath the crown. So one hand and the other hand belongs to each of them. So their hands are coming down and forming a DNA symbol on top of two pillars, and underneath is two tails. See, the practice of mixing animal with man is something that has been going on for some time. It didn't start in the 1600s. This is something that has been going on during the Dark Ages. And this beast has now evolved. This is the reason why I go back here. This beast has now evolved. It looks like a regular man, because people began to mingle with it. At first, it was capturing people and it was mingling. Now, the church, from what I'm seeing, has chose to mingle with it, and they see it as divine. So then when you start to see these yellow glows around all the people that's in the church, you got to understand what that glow means, because that's not a glow that is connected to Jesus. This is a divine glow of someone who believes that their bloodline is better than another. So, and I'll show that right there. So, in the connection piece, you can see that the man on the left, the beast on the left, he's green, like the green giant. And then on the far right, you see that he's no longer green. He's clear. He's not even hairy. And that's the evolution. And now the wild man looks like what you're seeing in the middle. He looks normal. He looks like a normal person. So you got to understand that when you're looking for, say, the devil, the wild man was called the devil. He was called a deceiver. But it's hard to understand that right there because you're looking for a beastly figure and this person looks normal. Just like what's in the church right now, like the Pope pictures I showed. This guy looks like a regular man, and it's possible he has that DNA in him. This book right here speaks volumes. It says, Wild Man, Warrior, and Kings. So the wild man was the warrior and king. In this part 3 that I'm going to be showing, because it says warrior, I'm going to show how they are a part of the Knights Templar, how they are a part of the Christian Crusaders. So this is the warrior that's not being shown right there. And then the king, you now have to question all the kings that have been in our past. Wild man, warrior, and king. You see him with the glow around his head. What makes him divine? Why does he have the glow around his head like the wild woman had the glow around her head? Like if you go back, she has the glow around her head. See, when you have this glow around your head, this is the glow of divinity, and it's not the way that we're taught. We're taught that this is like, dealing with the most high. This has nothing to do with that. This is people who believe that a bloodline is divine and better than another. Again, because this is like the beginnings of a super soldier type of thought, like, these people are more better or something about them. So yes, they're considered to be divine. And that is what you see right here. You see the wild man. He is a king. He is no longer sitting, you know, um, in his beastly figure, you know, with the Santa Claus hat on his head. He is a actual person on the throne. So we've looked at the wild man become a priest. We looked at the wild man now sitting here as a king. And what that means is regular people who do not have this DNA was under this man's authority. So I've learned that the wild man was the devil. It's never been someone that was in a burning place. It's always shown to be a man that is a deceiver. So when people are underneath him, people like me and you, during this time, you're not knowing that this is a wild man. So when he makes laws that go against mankind and you're forced to follow it, this is where it comes from. You're dealing with something that look like you, but it's not quite like you. Let's go to this next one. This is an example. You can see the man with the scripture. He has a crown on his head. He looks like a regular man. He looks like a regular man. And this isn't nothing to do with any type of racism. It's just the fact of that it seems like this beast chose which being it wanted to be from. But I've seen the wild man as an Asian, and I wouldn't be surprised if it had an African version of it. So I'm very open-minded. But this right here, it looks like a regular man. Notice how he looks. This is his true image. Now, they're not walking around looking like this. This is showing you the DNA that's in them. This is them showing you this is the same man. He has the crown on his head, the red gown, he has the scriptures in his hand, but he is having this DNA in him. and they consider having this DNA in them divine. So this is where the whole bloodline thing come from. When we start seeing the Illuminati bloodline, this is what they believe is better than everyone else. So we're talking about a lesser species of a person now in power ruling over the original man. They look like this, but they have this blood in them right here. And when you see this, you would call this Satan. You would call this Satan. And you're right. They did call the wild man Satan. Why? Because he looked like a man. He talked like a man. But when he gave out an edict, say to go to populate, go kill off everybody, then you start to understand that he's not quite like you. So the only way that you can tell that he's the wild man is when he talks, the things that he say, the things that he order. If it goes against life, then you have to realize that there is a species out there that wants to rule the world, and it's more of us than it is of them. So yeah, they want to decrease our numbers so that they can be the majority. We're dealing with something that wants to take over the world. Basically, the movie They Live is what we're going through right now. These people are in the church. They're kings. And now, because these are the older times, we're talking about they're in government now. They're in the CIA. They're in NASA. They're in every level of that type of government. And then you hear about them doing gene editing and all this. This is their workings. When you see this coin right here, you can easily go into a biblical mode. And we were taught to look at it in a biblical mode, but this is not biblical. This man, he's sitting down, he's holding the reaper staff in his hand, and you can see him with the snake. Okay, all you're doing is seeing an image of himself. There is no one walking around with the wings and looking like that. This is the reason why I showed it like this, that it's a man, and this is his DNA on the inside. So this is a man, and this is what he looks like on the inside. This is a man, and this is what he looks like. He can be over this right here. It can be all those things. But at the end of the day, the DNA that exists in this picture, this being on the left, is inside of this man. And this man right here is sitting on the throne in power. It's the Pope in church, is possibly your president and world leaders. It's that deep, and they're in every level of government. That's why I said they live, we sleep, because we don't believe that there is a species that is looking like us, but it is operating in such a manner that its whole goal is to annihilate everyone because it wants to take over the world. There is another species, and this species has animal DNA in it. So we get to the Bible. It says the huge dragon, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil, and Satan, who deceived the world. It's a man. It's always been a man, but it's a beastly man, and a beastly man that has that DNA in him. And it has mingled enough through ancient fertility rites that it now looks like a regular man, but it knows who it is. So in its power position, it's always creating laws and things that goes against our life. And I'm simply showing this because all the madness that we see in the world, it comes from somewhere. It just doesn't just like people come around with wacko ideas. No, this is an ideology that comes from a bloodline of people who want to rule the world. You see where it says old Nick, old Nick. The synonym for old Nick is Beelzebub, devil, fiend, Lucifer, Satan, serpent. They're calling Santa because Santa is called Old Nick. He is called Old Nick, but we're not putting that piece together that he is the wild man. Santa Claus, the last of the wild man. we have this thought of a person coming down your chimney to give you gifts. And I'm saying you have a species that has taken what I consider their wild man icon and has made it a household name for us to praise. This is their stuff. This is another species trying to take over our world. And right now, they are in power. They are in the church. They are the kings of the world. They are sitting on the throne. They're in government. They're the FDA. They're the World Economic Forum. They're possibly Israel. Everything that is a madness for us in the world that we're looking at comes from a bloodline of people who are in power positions. And they have no problem with this thought of removing everyone. But like I said, they pose like normal people. Here is the Santa Claus family tree, the famous Santa Claus family tree. And you see it says Wildman right there. And I just want to look at this middle piece right here. It says Lux. You see it, the first name, even on the Santa Claus Wildman tree, the Santa Claus family tree, Wildman. See the first name? Old Nick. Go back right here. Old Nick, which is Beelzebub, devil, Lucifer, serpent, Satan. This right here is the Satan, the person who looks like a man but has the animal DNA in him, the abominable man's DNA in him is considered the Satan. So you can see right here in the Lux, it has old Nick, and then it has Lucifer right there. All the names right there, going all the way up to Beelzebub, Satan, and then devil at the top right there. That is what the wild man is. And that is why I've been trying to make this connection, because the people who even wrote the book, the Bible, cannot tell you directly what this beast is. They have to draw it out, and then we have to figure it out. They cannot tell you because this beast is in power. Like you you're not going to be able to talk about this beast blatant and it not use the authority that it has and come after you. So this is what we're under right now. We're underneath a species of people who have animal DNA in them and they believe that they are divine. And now when you see the people with that glow around their head, you got to understand that that isn't for the most high. Even on the black side, it is not for the most high, because on the black side, you got this reptilian thing going on. So, we're going to get to that portion right there coming into the third video right here, because in this third one, I'm going to show the crest, how where they're at in power. These first two videos has just been connecting their origins, showing you that they do exist. Now it's time to go into the crest, to look at the crest. Even on the side of the black, which was the Moors, they are so tied in with this bloodline. It is crazy. So we're gonna tie this one up right here. I definitely want y'all to tune in to this next one, to this third one. It's going to be very deep. My pictures is going to be very strong. Nothing pornographic, but just I like to prove myself. I don't like to just sit and say things. You got to be able to show what you know, and I try to do my best with that. I don't like to be a lecturer. I like slides, and you will see a bunch of slides from me. So in this next one, it's going to get deep because we're going to be looking at the crest and doing some comparison to the Bible, because they talked about keys. So with that right there, family, because that's what you are to me right now. You've been sticking with me through all these videos. You now family. So until the next time, stay tuned, drop a like and sub. Thank you.